February 18, 2001, a date etched into the memory of NASCAR fans forever. It was the final lap of the Daytona 500, and Dale Earnhardt, known to millions as the Intimidator, was holding steady in third place, protecting his son Dale Jr. and teammate Michael Waltrip up ahead. But in the blink of an eye, the roar of the crowd turned to a stunned silence. Earnhardt's car made contact, veered, and collided with the concrete wall at nearly 160 miles per hour. Just like that, NASCAR lost a legend. One man who witnessed it all up close was fellow driver Ken Schrader. Schrader was among the first on the scene, and what he saw that day has haunted him ever since. In the years that followed, Schrader has rarely spoken about the harrowing sight inside Earnhardt's car. It was an image so chilling, so deeply disturbing, that it took nearly a decade before the macabre truth of that day was revealed through photos. Today, we'll dive into what happened on that fateful day, the trauma Schrader endured, and the lasting impact Earnhardt's death had on the sport. For Dale Earnhardt, the Daytona 500 was more than just another race. Known as the Intimidator for his fearless style on the track, Earnhardt had dedicated his life to the sport. By 2001, he was already a 7-time NASCAR champion and an icon in the world of racing. His aggressive, no-holds-barred approach made him a hero to fans and a formidable opponent to his fellow drivers. But this Daytona 500 had a different energy. Earnhardt seemed focused on helping his son, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his teammate Michael Waltrip, who was chasing his first-ever victory. The race itself had been intense, with drivers battling fiercely, all vying for a prestigious win. On that last lap, Earnhardt was in a fierce position, defending the rear of the lead pack, ensuring that Dale Jr. and Waltrip crossed the finish line without trouble. It was a selfless move, a gesture of loyalty and pride. But in those final seconds, in a tragic twist of fate, his car was tapped from behind, causing Earnhardt's number 3 Chevrolet to veer into the path of Ken Schrader's car and straight into the concrete wall. What seemed like a routine crash to spectators turned into one of the darkest moments in NASCAR history. Ken Schrader was one of the first to reach Earnhardt's car after the crash, his own vehicle tangled with Earnhardt's in the impact. As Schrader approached, his initial concern was to check on his friend. But as he opened the car door and looked inside, he was met with a sight that would forever stay with him. The scene was far more horrific than he could have anticipated. Earnhardt wasn't simply dazed or bruised. Schrader immediately sensed something far worse. The reality of what he saw has been described by some as macabre, a grim reminder of the violence and danger inherent in the sport they loved. In interviews years later, Schrader has shared little about what he saw, choosing his words carefully, often choking up when he recalls that moment. The trauma of seeing Dale, someone he had raced alongside and respected, in such a state was something that went beyond words. Schrader has mentioned that he knew right then that something was terribly wrong. For him, it was not merely a crash, it was the loss of a friend, a hero, a legend. After the crash, NASCAR quickly became tight-lipped about the details of Earnhardt's condition, sparking widespread speculation. Fans and media alike wanted to know what had happened in those last moments. However, the details of Earnhardt's death were carefully guarded for nearly a decade, both out of respect for his family and perhaps due to the shocking nature of his injuries. Over the years, there were rumors and theories, but the truth remained hidden until photos surfaced a decade later. These images confirmed the severity of the crash's impact and the brutality of Earnhardt's final moments. The pictures revealed the fatal blow. Earnhardt had suffered a basal skull fracture, a devastating injury that happens when the head is subjected to intense force without support. The impact had been instantaneous and, tragically, fatal. For many, these images brought closure to a long-standing mystery, but for Schrader, they reopened wounds that had barely healed. The fact that it took so long for these photos to be shared publicly speaks to the magnitude of the tragedy and the reverence with which Earnhardt's legacy was held. To this day, the images serve as a grim reminder of the risks drivers take every time they step onto the track. Why has Ken Schrader stayed mostly silent about what he saw? For Schrader, the psychological impact of that day has been profound. In interviews, he's shared that he wishes he could forget what he saw. The trauma wasn't just from the crash itself but from the personal realization that he had lost a friend in such a shocking, violent way. The NASCAR community, known for its camaraderie, understood his silence. They knew that seeing such a traumatic event up close is not something easily spoken about, let alone shared with the public. Schrader's silence reflects a respect for Earnhardt's legacy, as well as his own personal grief and trauma. For him, the memories of that day are sacred, a painful part of NASCAR history that he prefers to keep private. It's a reminder that, for drivers, the track is not just a place of competition but a place where life and death exist in close proximity. Dale Earnhardt's death was a turning point for NASCAR. The tragedy was a wake-up call, exposing the need for more rigorous safety measures to protect drivers. In the years following the accident, NASCAR implemented major safety improvements, including the Hans device, a head and neck support system designed to prevent the kind of fatal injury Earnhardt suffered. Tracks were modified, and cars were re-engineered with reinforced structures to minimize injury during crashes. Earnhardt's legacy goes beyond his accomplishments on the track. He saved lives in his death. His accident spurred NASCAR to make changes that have protected countless drivers since. It's a sobering thought to consider, but perhaps Earnhardt's greatest legacy is the safety he brought to the sport, the improvements that have allowed other drivers to walk away from accidents that would once have been fatal. More than 2 decades later, Dale Earnhardt's memory lives on in the hearts of fans, his fellow drivers, and the NASCAR community. He was a force of nature on the track, known for his aggressive style and fearless approach. But he was also a loving father, a teammate, and a friend. His presence is still felt at every Daytona 500, in every roar of the engines, and in the countless tributes left by fans who continue to honor his memory. For Ken Schrader, the pain of that day remains, but so does the pride in having known and raced alongside a legend. In his own way, Schrader has honored Earnhardt by continuing to carry forward the lessons learned, the camaraderie they shared, and the respect he held for the Intimidator. Dale Earnhardt wasn't just a NASCAR champion, he was a cultural icon, a symbol of raw determination and grit. His influence reached far beyond the racetrack, inspiring millions of fans to embrace life with the same tenacity he brought to every race. To this day, you'll find fans donning his iconic black number 3 gear, a lasting symbol of their respect and admiration. Earnhardt's legacy is a testament to what it means to live with passion, to pursue excellence, and to leave a mark that endures even after tragedy. In the years following his death, NASCAR fans and drivers alike have continued to pay tribute to Earnhardt, not just in memorials but in their approach to the sport. His name is spoken with reverence, his legacy celebrated by generations of new drivers who look to him as an example of how to embrace the challenge, the thrill, and the risk inherent in racing. Earnhardt's tragic accident shook the world, but it also sparked necessary change. His death brought about a revolution in NASCAR's approach to safety, sparing future generations of drivers from similar fates. The Hans device, now a mandatory piece of equipment, has been credited with saving numerous lives. Tracks have continued to evolve, now featuring safer barriers that absorb impact, further protecting drivers from the dangers of high-speed collisions. Thanks to Earnhardt, drivers can push the limits of speed with confidence that the sport has made their safety a priority. Dale's legacy lives in each of these safety measures, transforming a moment of tragedy into a foundation for progress that continues to save lives to this day. For Ken Schrader, Dale's memory is not something to exploit, it's something to respect and protect. His choice to remain mostly silent about that day speaks to the dignity he holds for his fallen friend. While the world is hungry for details, for an insider's account, Schrader's silence honors Earnhardt's legacy more than words ever could. In Schrader's eyes, it seems, there are things too sacred to share, moments too personal to recount, even decades later. His reluctance to revisit the trauma of that day reminds us all that sometimes, respecting the legacy of a legend means allowing their story to rest. Schrader's silence is a quiet, steadfast tribute to the man Dale Earnhardt was, preserving the dignity of his friend's memory. Dale Earnhardt may have left this world on that fateful day in 2001, but his legacy is as alive as ever. NASCAR is safer because of him. His spirit, his drive, and his fearlessness continue to inspire new generations of racers and fans alike. His story is not merely one of triumph or tragedy, it's a story of resilience, passion, and the indomitable spirit of a man who gave everything for the sport he loved. As we remember Dale Earnhardt, let's honor him by embracing life with the same fearless drive he brought to the racetrack. Let's remember Ken Schrader's silence as a reminder of the humanity behind the heroism, the respect for the person behind the legend. Thank you for watching, and for taking the time to remember a true icon. If Dale's story touched you today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep the legacy of Dale Earnhardt alive, and may his memory inspire us to live with courage, passion, and respect for those who paved the way.